Hi. So I'm going to review these Knockdhus in a moment, but I wanted to kind of preface them and contextualize what I'll be talking about with a quick question, which is, what do you think is the most underrated region in Scotch malt whiskey? Take your time. Give it some thought. I do hope no one's going to say the islands, because the islands do make some fantastic malt whiskey, but particularly with Isla, they've also gotten probably the largest share of the love that malts have gotten over the last, I would say, 15 years. Yeah, the islands have gotten a lot of attention. I wouldn't say they're overbought or anything. They deserve the attention they're getting, but they also don't seem like underrated to me. What about, say, the Lowlands? I mean, the Lowlands are an interesting possibility, right? Because you can make some terrific malts in the Lowlands. Saint Magdalene, Rosebank. But it's more, you want to say more that there's a ton of untapped potential there, more than that they're underrated, right? Because most of the malts coming out of the lowland right now is Glenkinchie and Auchentoshan. I talked about Auchentoshan in the last video. That's owners that don't seem to understand how to deal with what they've got, and the quality isn't really where it should be at the moment. I mean, you have the Bladnoch and Daffin Mill and a few others kind of trying to hold things up, but they're not totally there yet. Give us some time. The Highlands, you say? I would agree that there's some underrated regions in the Highlands outside Speyside, right? I mean, particularly in the east, Glencadam, Glengeary deserve more attention. But I think on the whole, there are lots of Highland distilleries doing amazing things and being recognized for it. Clynelish, Edradour is starting to get some attention. Glendronach, obviously. I mean, there's controversies about Glendronach, but they're getting attention. Ardmore, Pulteney, all these distilleries are starting to circulate in terms of the online discussion and what people are actually buying. And then you got the Speyside, and you wouldn't think the Speyside would be underrated, right? Because there are a ton of big name whiskeys in the space. Well, it's really only a handful of big name whiskeys, but they do kind of take up a lot of the oxygen in the room. So you've got the sort of big sherry monsters, the Macallans, the Aberlours. You've also got this sort of big malty, appley, perry, honey floral style, represented by Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, those guys. But that's only a handful of distilleries. You've also got a few weirdos like Mortlach, Ben Riach, Ben Romach, and those get some love too. But between the big guys and the sort of weirdos, there's not a lot of attention paid to the other distilleries there. And so I think people tend to kind of write them off as just crap that's going into the blends, and that's all that's going on. But there is, I think, a third major Speyside style, another side to Speyside, if you like, that is kind of getting lost in all this discussion. And I think that once you sort of take that style into consideration, once you notice that it's there, then you can make a pretty strong case that maybe the Speyside is actually the most underrated region for malt whiskey production. So here's what I mean. And this is why I preface this with Auchentoshan, right? Because the style I am talking about is still malty. It still has, a lot of the fruity characteristics that you expect from, say, a Glenfiddich or something. But it's more lean, and it's brighter, and it's more lifted. You're getting herbal characteristics, green characteristics, more citrus. Often some tea notes, black teas, green teas. Those kind of get in there, which just kind of push it in a different direction from those other major styles. And they're all over the place once you start looking for them. Glenkeith, not a name you're going to hear a lot of. You can really only get in independent bottlers, but Glenkeith is actually a really interesting, distinctive, worthwhile malt to find. Tamnavulin. A couple of years ago, there were some 92 Tamnavulins that came out, and they were fantastic, and they weren't expensive, and they were, again, very much in this kind of herbal, citric, tea-driven sort of style. And it's a style that you don't really get elsewhere in Scotland. I would say the closest point of comparison would be the Lowlands. I talked in the last video, is why I brought up Auchentoshan, about how there's a style of spirit which can be very light and yet very intense at the same time, that can just cut through layers and layers of oak and still come right through. With this Speyside third style, it's kind of the same. It's also very light and very intense, even though there's a different set of characteristics being applied. You do get some tea notes and some citrus in Lowlanders too. So I kind of lump these together in my brain a little bit. Anyways, the problem is a lot of these distilleries, which seem to me to represent that style, do not get bottled very often outside of the independents. And even in the independents, they're not very common. Good luck finding a Glenkeith if you want, or an Althroisk or something. But there is a kind of leader amongst them, which is pretty broadly available, and that's Knockdhu. I think, if you have a chance of finding any of these with good presentation, it's probably going to be Knockdhu. Now, Knockdhu is interesting. They have been doing everything they can to kind of put themselves out there and get noticed, and it has utterly failed, so far as I can tell. The distillery is called Knockdhu, but the official name of the malt is AnCnoc, and they changed the name because they didn't want to be confused with Knockdhu, which is another Speyside malt. You mostly see it in France, but it just pop over here occasionally. So they didn't want to be. They wanted to kind of make them individualize themselves anymore. Did it work? Did anyone buy more Knockdhu because they changed the name? Absolutely not. Also, I brought up Glendronach earlier. There's this controversy going on about natural color and unchill filtration with Glendronach, right? Ralphie got mixed up in this, and it's a whole big thing. AnCnoc is still doing all that. They're still bottling, the highest bits of their range at higher proofs, even. And they were doing it, a good 4 or 5 years before Glendronach ever did. Did that get them noticed by you or other malt drinkers? Probably not, because the style, Glendronach has the advantage of being Macallan-y, even though we kind of look down on Macallan a little bit these days in the nerd circles. It has the advantage of being sort of a style people can kind of approach and glom onto. Knockdhu is a different beast altogether. So what I'm going to do is aside from just letting you in the know that this third side of Speyside is out there, is I want to sort of highlight Knockdhu and the AnCnoc range. So what I've got here is an independent bottling. That's straight enough. From Cadenhead's. This is a 10-year-old from distilled 2006. And then this is an official Knockdhu bottle. So they do this basically vintage releases pretty commonly. I think every year or every other year, something like that. They're typically 14 years old, and they typically have some sherry influence on them. This is the 2001, which would have been bottled around, they actually tell you. Yeah, distilled 2001, bottled December 2015. All right, so we're going to go through these once. I'm going to add water, and we'll go through them again and give them a score. All right, so we're going to start with the Cadenheads because it's younger, even though it's bottled to cask strength. So what do we got here? Distilled 2006, bottled 2017. No more dating information than that. 10 years old. This was a bourbon hogshead, but look at that color. That does not look like a first fill cask to me. This is probably, third fill, maybe second fill. Not a lot of life left in this cask, which is okay. when you have the character of distillate that Knockdhu has. So Bourbon's Hogshead, 222 bottles, bottled at 54.8% alcohol by volume. Yeah, and it also comes in this little 175th anniversary box, which is fine, and it has this little badge on it. I don't know what same kind of thing. All right, so let's get into this. Cadenhead Knockdhu 10-year-old. I mean, this is okay. So it's still Speyside. It's still very malty. This is the wood has all the wood has done here is kind of take the edge off of some of those off notes you get in new make. And the rest is just the barley coming right through. And it's balanced. So it's much more aromatic than you think of with a sort of big fat, Glenlivets kind of Speyside though. The fruit is much more intense and sort of penetrating. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but that's the best I can come up with. And it's balanced off by all this other stuff going on. So you're getting, clover honey, overripe pears, almost like rotting pears, a little bit too overripe. Different honeys, Manuka honey is in there, sort of really, intense honey. It's a little nutty too. There's a kind of an almond butter note in there, and a big old boatload of flowers. So immediately, I mean, you're kind of in the range of Speyside style, but accompanying that and kind of wrapping itself inside it is a ton of anise, just black licorice all day long, pastis, and then menthol, and then just lemon juice, peach, like underripe peach, green peach, some nectarine, some lychee fruit. I mean, this is incredibly aromatic, and that's what I love about this, third style. There's some pu'er tea going on, and what is that? Kind of like a coffee thing, but almost, like African aromatic, like Kenyan AA, something like that. Light roasted, sort of right there with the pu'er, so you've sort of vatted the two. That doesn't sound great, but that's kind of what I'm getting. On the palate, okay. Ooh, the alcohol's pretty nippy on this. That's not bad. That's why I'm going to add water. Really intense, punchy. So again, maltiness. I'm getting apple. Nice green apple, pear, more like, pear, but also pear cider, like perry. Different honeys, again, kind of, I'm chewing on some wildflowers right now, some wildflower petals. A little bit of a malted milk ball note. So, half a malted milk ball, throw it in your mouth, chew on it with your flower petals and honey. But then, I mean, lemon zest and lemon pith for days. Kind of fennel as well. Yeah, fennel more so than anise. Limoncello, like real limoncello, like the old ladies in Italy make. Kind of a little bit of a Ricola note. You remember the commercials, the Ricola commercials? Anyone that old? Lemon juice again. Lemon everything. Stone fruit, peach, nectarine, all that stuff. And then just like this minerally note, this crushed rocks all over the place. This is like something about this puts me in mind of like a Savennier, like a really serious Loire Valley Chenin Blanc. that? White pepper. And there's a tea note in here, but it's almost like artisanal, like an artisanal blend or something. Like you blended a bunch of herbs and flowers together with your tea. Kind of that's that kind of tea, and then you put it all in a tea bag and you're stewing it. That kind of thing. Some mixed herbs, a little like gummy worms. So like you made gummy worms, but you put some herbs in them, that kind of thing. Really fascinating distillate. I mean, the oak is not doing anything here. The oak is, again, just here to kind of clean things up a little bit. It's a nice t-shirt instead of something, yeah, that's all it is. It isn't even a suit or a really nice outfit. It's just a clean t-shirt for this thing to wear. That's all the oak is doing. Otherwise, it's all the Knockdhu distillate all day long, and that is just fine with me. I love this stuff. I am going to add a squirt of water to it and come back in a second. Hold on, let me see if that's enough. Just like a couple drops more. Okay. It's not the easiest style in the world. You don't want to, if someone's just starting out as a malt drinker, do not hand them Knockdhu or AnCnoc or whatever the hell it's called. It's just, the herbaceousness and the citric notes are very, very challenging. Even more so on this than like Ben. I know Ben Riach has a little bit of a reputation for that. This is more so. This is serious. It's challenging, but it's also just terrific and refreshing, and it's something to drink in. It's a malt you can drink in the summer for one thing, and it's not a boring malt you have to drink in the summer. Like last time, I really enjoyed that the Auchentoshan American Oak or whatever it was called, but not the most complex and it was hard to have a dialogue with, right? This one you can talk with all day long. It's really well made. All right, moving on to the vintage release, AnCnoc 2001. So let's see, non-chill filtered, natural color, 46% ABV. And again, I think there's some sherry influence on this. You can actually smell it, which I will do in just one moment. 14 years old, 2006 or 2001 to 2015, is it? December 15. And all right, on the nose on this AnCnoc. Okay, this is more refined. This is more modern and oak driven than the Cadenheads, but it still has a little bit of that wildness to it. So we're getting pear, lemon zest, lemon pith more so than the juice. Definitely getting the sherry in there. It's more of a almost an orangey style of sherry than dried fruit. But some tangerine, some honey again. Kind of subtle nuttiness. Kind of what is that? Like a little bit of macadamia in there. But then along the sides, you're getting the dried fruit. That's a little sultana, a couple dried apricots. What is that? Like rice pudding, very vanilla-y rice pudding. But then you're getting also those sort of mineral notes, the wet rocks, the tea notes, the Darjeeling, really a Darjeeling tea note now. A little licorice poking through as well. Not a whole lot, just like half a stick of black licorice. And then like some dark chocolate in there, and some pretty strong coffee drink, like a cortado or something, real cortado. not Starbucks. This has poise. This is a very balanced sort of nose. It's not, it's not bowling me over with the level of quality or complexity, but it's just, things are kind of in tune with each other. There's nothing in here that really stands out or fights back against everything else. It's just a nice balance of a very complex distillate and, some pretty active wood. On the palate, kind of the same story. Really nice balance between a distillate and sherry influence. So we're getting on the one hand the pear, the peach, the lemony stuff, but then on the side you're serving all that up with the raisins, the sultanas, a couple of like pine nuts, a cup of hot chocolate, not too sweet. It's more like you just put the one scoop of chocolate in there and the rest is just steamed milk. Black pepper, that's from the sherry cask, but also wrapped in with some fennel on the back end in particular. Menthol again, honey, but like a kind of a heavier wildflower honey, and a hell of a lot of black tea. Don't ask me what kind of black tea, maybe like a Ceylon or something. And then more dried fruits, all the dried fruits. Throw some prunes in there, dried cherries, dried apricots, sultanas again. It's nice. It's like a delicious sherry malty pillow in my mouth. It doesn't have the cerebral complexity of the Cadenheads, and that's okay. I mean, not everything needs to be, hitting me over the head with anise and lemon pith all the time. All right, I'm going to give this a squirt of water, and we'll come back to it. The water again is less to proof it down and more just to open these up. Although the Cadenhead does need to be proofed down, I think, to be consistently sipped comfortably, especially in summer when the heat is going to push the effects of alcohol up a little bit. Okay, back to the Cadenheads. The Cadenhead Knockdhu with water. Okay, so the pear recedes, but also the licorice recedes a little bit. It gets more minerally and more citrusy. So you're getting, lemons and rocks. This is really like we're getting into serious Loire Valley white wine territory here. Maybe even like Alsatian Riesling territory. Also some tangerine, also some grapefruit. No, the anise notes are still in there. They more become fennel notes now. God, this is a great distillate. I could nose this forever. I mean, this is 10 years old in a dead cask. I mean, you give this stuff a chance with a really good cask budget, and it will, and some serious aging, and it will just. This is seriously underrated. This style. This Knockdhu in particular, but also just this style in general. On the palate, oh, just perfection. Oh God, I really like this. It's just this perfect balance between like citrus and stone fruit and astringency, but also this nice, peary, appley, fruity honeyedness. And oh, the anise is right in there, and the gummy worms thing, the herbal gummy worms thing. Oh God, this is good. Yeah, throw in some what is the green tea powder? The matcha? Throw some green tea powder in here. Tons of ground pepper. And there's actually a little, has more wood influence on it than came across without water. It's actually on the woodiness kind of comes through more on the back end now, which is okay. It gets a little bit sort of drying and bitter, which I kind of like actually. It's not off balance at all. It's very much in character and in continuity with the rest of this. God, this is great. Totally weird. I'm drinking this. Very weird, third Speyside style. Just, I mean, delicious. I mean, this is if you like, your malts to have this kind of intense, slightly, again lifted, slightly bright character to them. I mean, this is just wonderful. And if you like Lowlanders in particular, and you're just kind of looking to expand beyond that handful of distilleries, here you go. Go here, right here. This one. Go buy this bottle or something like it. Yeah, I originally gave this an 87 out of 100, and I'm going to kick that up to 87 plus because it's that good. This is really nice. Okay, moving on to the official bottling now. I don't know why other people don't like this style, or why it doesn't, fly off the shelves. All right, back to the 2001 AnCnoc with some water now. Okay. So this actually brings out the sherry cask a little bit more, the water. It quiets things down, but we're also getting more chocolate, more kind of dried cherries. And a kind of a cookie note, like the distillate is still coming through, but it's almost like lemon cookies now. If you sprinkled your lemon cookies with some anise and some fennel. And beyond that, it's all dried fruit and chocolate all day long. Very nice. Doesn't have anywhere near the complexity of the AnCnoc on the nose, and even the AnCnoc was winning more on the palate. But very refined, very poised. If this one's in the nice t-shirt, this is much more, like the full, nice two-piece suit kind of thing. On the palate, okay. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, okay. This kind of brings things together. So again, the sherry cask comes out more to play more, but it's not sort of intrusive. You're getting more chocolate, lots of high cacao chocolate here, but it's kind of wrapped into this kind of grapefruity, tangerine, lemony thing, and some anise, and then some sort of nice bitter, but also cooling herbaceous wood on the back end. Again, very poised, very balanced. Oh, what am I going to give this? I mean, it's a really good digestive kind of whiskey. The sherry heaviness may be too much. This is much, I would go for this in the summer. I would go for this like any old time, honestly. But as a kind of winter warmer, a kind of dessert dram, this is terrific. I'm going to give this, I gave this an 85 initially. I'm also going to give this a plus. Let's say 85 plus on this. I like it a lot. Doesn't have quite the depth of the Cadenheads, but I mean, it's terrific. Yeah, okay. Last scores. 87 plus for the Cadenheads, 85 plus for the AnCnoc 2001. But the entire range is worth exploring. I need to buy more of these. They had a 16-year-old a couple of years ago, which was terrific. I don't think it's around anymore. They also have some Peters. Those I was less enthusiastic about. You're much better off just going for the standard, unpeated or lightly peated AnCnoc. This is good, and I really hope this third Speyside kind of starts to catch on a little bit more. People really should be drinking, the Conval Moors, the Glenkeiths, that kind of style, the Othroyce. People should be paying more attention to these as they get more interested in, more complex, more challenging distillates. And I really hope that starts to happen. But for now, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Hope this was informative, and cheers.